Hey guys, so I'm going to just do a really quick video on our fodder system that we are just starting with. So prepare to not be impressed. This is not fancy at all. But I wanted to just show you what we've started with, and then I'll keep you guys updated if I change things. And I already kind of have plans to change things, but I wanted to do something really cheap and easy because I wanted to kind of just see how it works and kind of test the waters before we sunk a lot of money into really anything. And I don't particularly plan on sinking much money into a fodder system just because we only have a few animals that I plan to use this with, and it just doesn't make sense to make it a big expense when we have other projects that we rather put money into. But if you have a lot of animals, this is definitely something that I would really encourage people to consider. And I probably would up what I'm doing for winter just because it is a good way to really stretch your dollar feed wise. So what fodder is basically, it's just sprouted seeds essentially. If you've ever looked at eating sprouted seeds yourself, then you probably know that it provides a lot more, you get a lot more nutritional value out of that seed. So in this case, I'm using barley. Most people seem to do barley, but some people also do wheat. And I am looking to sprout sunflower seeds for my chickens. But basically you're taking the barley seed and you're sprouting it. From what I understand, the barley or other seeds, most animals are only going to get about like 20 to 30% of the nutritional value out of that seed if they just eat it. If you sprout it, they get more like 80%, they use more like 80% of the seed. So you're really stretching your food cost, your feed cost a lot farther by sprouting it first. They're going to consume less because they're getting more out of it. And then essentially you're wasting less because they're not kind of eating it, getting a very small amount of nutrition out of it, and then it's just coming out the other end. So what I've done in my super technical setup here is I've just taken these dish pans from the dollar store. I bought 8 of them to start, so super high cost of $8 to start this. And then I spent $8.50 on a 50-pound bag of barley, which should literally last me forever. So like I said, very cost effective. And then I drilled holes in the bottom of the bins. I kept them more centered just so I wouldn't have an issue with it spilling off the sides. So the first thing I tried was just stacking them. Like you can see here where they're kind of going back and forth. That didn't work. They fell through, especially once it started to grow more and it got heavier. So I added just scrap pieces of the wood screwed to the sides to give it more support. And it works. I can't stack more than the 4 high that I have here, or I guess really 3 on top of 1, because they fall over, as I discovered yesterday. So this is definitely not a good long-term setup. I think a lot of people use the wire shelving. So I might watch to see if I can find something on like Craigslist or something, or I might just build a wood frame that these can kind of just set into, because you want something that doesn't have a solid bottom. Right now, the 2 bottom tubs don't have holes in them, as I'm sure you could probably guess because they're sitting on the ground. But I gotta kind of figure out what I want to do from here, just because this is not going to be a long-term viable solution. But I've been super happy with how easy it is, because it literally takes me like 2 minutes in the evening to I just put 2 cups. I found 2 cups to be a good amount of green for this size wash pan, which it does not tell me how big it is. It's probably like, I don't know, like 12 by 8, 12 by 10, something like that. It's not really that big. So I just take, a bucket, I put water in it and add 2 cups of the barley, let that soak overnight. The next morning, I dump that out into an empty pan and I sit it on, when I sit it on top and then dump. so that the water just drains all the way through the one. Then I add a little bit more water to the bucket and run it through the second set so that both get watered. And then I do the same thing in the evening where I water both of them and then soak the grains again. So, I mean, it literally takes just a few minutes. Our animals love it. The goats so much that they forget all of their manners and like literally maul me for it. I figured out with them that I definitely have to like break it up into little bits so that I can kind of just like chuck little bits at them and I don't have this big piece, because they'll just grab the big piece out of my hand and then they'll bite it off and then the rest falls on the ground. So yeah, but they definitely love it. Completely forgotten their manners. But this is what it kind of should look finished. I actually, when I was making this modification, I kind of paused for a few days and I didn't soak any grains. So I kind of have a bunch that are in the beginning stages and then this one that is at the end. And I have found that for our animals, which we're feeding 2 adult goats, 2 goats that are 5 months old, 6 chickens and 4 ducks. And this is not their main source of feed either. This is kind of, I use it kind of like just a afternoon snack that really I only need like half is a sufficient amount. I don't need to feed the whole thing. Now in the winter, I have a feeling I'll probably feed the whole thing and I'll be using this more as a actual part of their feed, not just kind of more of as a afternoon snack. But I have been very pleased with how easy it is and what, you know, how the animals have responded and just what you get out of it. You know, this is definitely, try to pull this out with one hand. Hold on. You know, it's heavy. It's very dense. There's a lot to it. And the animals, you know, I know are getting a lot more out of it than if I just fed them plain old barley seed. But let's see. See, these like little pieces make it really hard to peel out. This side, I think either wasn't getting enough water or wasn't getting enough sunlight. So it didn't really sprout as well. But the chickens love just the seeds, so I can always count on them to kind of clean up. Let me see if I can peel this out. Ah. There we go. So this is what it looks like when it's all sprouted. It's super, you know, thick and dense. I can see that there's like maybe a little bit of mold on the bottom. So I'll just pull that part out. I haven't really had an issue with mold, but this one is like a week old. I think I'm going to feed more like 5 to 6 days. But I just didn't, I had some that were like all ready to go and then I didn't have any others. And then I started splitting them in half. So now that I've kind of figured out how much I need to do every day, that should make it a little bit easier to ensure that I'm not losing any because they're sitting down here for so long and they get moldy or anything like that. I'm just going to go ahead and end it there. Like I said, I'm just sorting out. So, this is not a super technical system, but if you also are looking to start out, this is, I think, a good way to kind of get your feet wet and figure out what you want to do without sinking a lot of money into it. I definitely am going to continue doing it and kind of continue to play with how I can better set this up so it works a little bit better. But if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them below. Make sure you subscribe so that you can stay up to date with what we're doing, and I'll see you guys later.